communications.
Like a dude was walking over here. Like it was walking towards Aiden. But then it just disappears. Like where did he go? It was an actual human body. That kind of looks like human. That one doesn't. Don't worry about that.
Anything cool yet, kiddo?
Barely any.
Barely any?
I got something, but then I wasn't even recording. It like popped up for a split second. But someone was walking over there.
Really? That's crazy.
Because there's Aiden over there walking. And then I thought there was two people because another whole figure was walking like at him.
Well, maybe it was Eliza.
But then it just disappeared.
Yeah, might have been Eliza. It's not all your
It's my initials.
Whoa. Here, let me type it out.
All right.
So, you know if you get anything else cool, okay?
The whole
Keep
time?
it running while we're here.
Anything else, Noah?
You might want to watch people because sometimes the spirit will follow you. Like watch Daddy for a while and see if anything's following.
Noah, film me walking into that corner.
And a lot of stuff has gone by you. Get that ghost thing out the way. Nothing. I got one by that car, but you like went and then you walked away, and I also got one following you, bro. But I didn't get on record. Cool with that.
You got a bunch following me?
So I got two following you, but those were like in separate things. And one time I couldn't even get recording.
So we on track.
So, I heard president at the end. You heard president again?
I heard president. I didn't hear his name. I did get the name Sean. And also Hurricane.
I like that dude. I like that car.
Is there a Hurricane Sean?
We're not that far yet. I don't know what they would be referring to. I'd have to go into the hurricane records to see if something impacted Charleston directly. No, just again, I want to keep all your devices running. So if you've got a camera, keep it going just for a few minutes. We're going to go over all the answers. But I want to kind of tell you like how I'm looking at all of this. So we have everybody's hearing something relevant to themselves. So we have Hillary's name showed up on a spirit box. Amelia's name showed up over here. And it was spelled properly. And then Laura has her initials show up on her word list. So again, this is not coincidence that none of you knew any of that. So that's 3 people out of 13 of us out here at Grand Total. Granted, me and London aren't using devices, except for, obviously not voice. But you guys have a lot going on. I still don't know what the January 9th is, but the number 24 keeps showing up. We also had the word home show up as well, and the names of the people came up between 2 different spirit box people as well.
Hey, 2024.
2020. I've seen that on there. That's where I was like, because you heard the number 24 too, right? Somebody heard the number 24. Yeah, so the 2 of you heard the number 24. Because because I'm looking at this as a common thing. I want you to also keep in mind that your spirit boxes are slowed down. What that means to me is that if we ask what color is a big red barn, you might hear Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. I don't need Rudolph the Nosed Reindeer. So when you get a number like 2024, and then I hear him tell me the number 24, it's screaming 24 to me, if you're getting the gist of that. So again, I'm excited. You guys are grabbing this really, really fast. So there's certain nights where I have a group this size, where like it takes me another 20 minutes to explain the devices. So kudos to all of you. Great job. Gonna make my job a whole lot easier. I can't wait to watch the Blair Witch Project coming out of nowhere, by the way. When I actually need to study, I always hand to the smallest person in the group. So, all right, so let's go over all these answers and kind of let's go ahead and get that thing muted. So again, those of you with video cameras, again, you guys kind of know the rules. Let's keep them running just while we're here, and then I'll explain the next space of where we're going next. I'm excited because you guys are getting the gist of it. I love to come to this space specifically because it is so active. The EMF readings, I think we got all the way up to a 39.
That's done.
59. Holy cow. So again, we're in a space where there's no electricity. Why are we getting these readings? Obviously is the big question. So hopefully there's some footage somewhere of an orb going by, energy being built up. So if you were getting closer to 100, I would expect somebody to capture an orb, either through Noah's camera or at this point Lori's camera. So again, those would capture orbs because of that much energy. And I say energy in a very specific language, not generic like most ghost hunting TV shows will tell you. It's all the energy. Yeah, you need to focus on what the energy actually is. So let's go over these answers. Let's see. So first and foremost, when I break out the tablet, you don't need to funnel around. I kind of go around the room so everybody can kind of see what's going on. This is Eliza Lucas Pinckney. So obviously her initials are ELP, and I give you her maiden name because she's the second wife named Eliza from Charles back to back. So the first wife, Eliza, also had a maiden name that started with the letter L. Sometimes we'll get that maiden name and or the maiden name of Eliza Lucas. So the first wife was Eliza Lamb. Lamb and Lucas would be the names that we're looking for those of you that were looking for that. This Eliza married Charles when she was 22 years old. He was 45. So definitely a creepy age gap then, creepy age gap now. I can see that. That's kind of gross. But anyway, so let's talk about why we're here in the space, which is very, very specific. So this is the only photograph of the mansion that we have. This is fire damage from the Great Fire of 1861. We did get the word fire on Amelia's list. I'm sorry, I'm trying to screw your name all up there. Amelia's list. And that fire happened on December 11th of 1861. So we will get 12/11/61, and we've already heard a 12. So I want you to also keep in mind we had bleed over. So bleed over to me is when you're close enough to another haunted space where things kind of interact. We had another name that popped up on Amelia's list that I'm going to talk about here in a minute, but I think we heard the number 12 like half a block away from here. So we could have gotten Pinckney things over by Big John's and Big John's things over here. It can mesh. I've seen it. I'm out here a lot, just so you know. Every tour in town, if you haven't taken a history tour, is going to tell you about a fire in Charleston. This is the one that took out the Pinckney Mansion. This is a map of Charleston. And you were standing on a tiny little green dot on the right-hand side if you wanted to see that. So this particular fire actually went from one side of the peninsula to the other and basically cost Charleston $5 to $9 million worth of damage. So you're probably asking, a fire that big, why didn't it take down the entire mansion? It was made of more material than just wood. So again, it was a pretty large place. Let's talk about those children. So Brian, those were your questions, right? Did I screw up anybody's name yet? All right. Listen, I think you guys are an easy group. Because I can, anyway. I'm one of those people that can just remember you very short term. The children, there were 4 of them, grand total. Let's go through them very, very quickly. Charles, you already know about, signer of the Constitution, right? Let's move on to the next one. Thomas, shot in his left leg and captured by the British during the Battle of Camden, Revolutionary War battle. When he was released from the British, he was left on a cane the rest of his days. So again, we didn't get anything specific for Thomas tonight. It might be that January 9th, if I'm honestly thinking about it, but I'm not really sure. But those are the terms I look for. So cane, left leg, battle. We've even had battle and Camden show up in the same evening. And that's actually how I learned about this, to be honest with you. Everything we're talking about isn't from the city of Charleston telling me I have to teach you the same stuff. It's a matter of, this is everything I learned from investigating the same spaces for the past 4 years. So, the next child is the one I asked you all not to poke the bear with. This is baby George, which we had the name George show up while we were over by the Pinckney Mansion. I'll need another clue to verify if this is exactly who it was referring to. Baby George obviously didn't make it. Go ahead. George over there. Right, that's what I said. by Big John's. So obviously, baby George is an infant. We don't know how old he was exactly, but his death certificate has the same month and year in the birth and death column, June of 1747. So could have been days old, could have been weeks old. He had a name, so I'm guessing he was at least a few weeks old because back in the 1700s, you didn't name a child until they were christened. So again, at least a few weeks old. The creepy thing about George is that he does not have a headstone or a grave. The weird theory that I have about this is that they would have mummified him and kept him right here in the home, waiting for his mother to pass, Eliza, so he could be buried with her. Again, that was a common religious practice. Don't go home and Google mummy baby and not expect a phone call from the government, by the way. It's a religious practice. So kind of keep that around. But it's going to get even more weird when we talk about Eliza's death. But there's one more child. Her name was Harriet. She's the only daughter. She actually married Daniel Ory. Horry County is Myrtle Beach area if you're not familiar. So that's 2.5 hours north by car for us. Eliza didn't have a car. Lots of letter writing instead. When we hear from Harriet, very seldom, about once or twice a year, we'll get quill, ink, paper, published, anything relative to letter writing between her and her mother. Because those letters were all published and they're a very fascinating read in case you haven't heard of this, published letter book. What do you have now?
I got publisher, pen, and pencil, since we last got.
Holy cow. So maybe somebody has the name Harriet showing up on their spirit box that they just missed in real time. That's why we record everything as much as possible. So, wow, maybe she is here today. Maybe something's very specific to her that I don't know. Maybe it's January 9th relative to her. That could be it as well. Let's move on to Eliza's death. Who had those questions about Christian? Those were yours, right? So, Eliza was 70 years old when she passed away. First off, let me point out that that's a long time for a woman to be alive in colonial times. She died in 1793. She was going to Philadelphia to get treatments for whatever they thought she had. It turned out to be breast cancer. We didn't know what the hell breast cancer was in 1793. It's going based off her medical records. Now, she died in Philly. She's buried in Philly. That should raise two questions in the back of your brain. First off, let's go to baby George. If my theory is true, by the way, don't Google it, they would have taken that tomb of the mummy baby all the way to Philadelphia by horse and carriage. Most of you look like you're old enough to remember the game Oregon Trail, and somebody's going to get dysentery on that trip. That's a long trek for horse and carriage. The other piece is, if she's buried up there, why are we here? We're here because I don't take you to actually to go to cemeteries, regardless of the name of what I call my company. The reason why I call it that is because Charleston is one giant cemetery. None of you are going to hang out near your grave when you're gone. I investigate a lot of cemeteries. It's minimal activity at best. It's never consistent. People don't stare at their headstones when they're gone. They go to their mansions 400 miles away south. So that's why we're here. And that's exactly why I chose the places that I chose, of why who's the attached person going to that specific location. So, the president. Who wants to take a guess who the president was that was the pallbearer? Yeah, 1793. So yes.
So Washington was the president.
I love how you guys did that by deductive reasoning. You asked me what year it was again. Notice I gave you guys all the answers except for that one. So the deductive reasoning piece is good. The rest of you, you passed with a fail.
Pay attention to history, kids.
Here's why I give that question back to you. When we got here, I told you all, I'm not going to give you questions like what color is George Washington's white horse, like what we did at the Big Red Barn. I do that so I put Washington in the back of all of your brains, waiting to see who's going to give it to me or London while we're out there. So you all passed with a fail except for these two who put their heads together in the back of the class and said it must have been Washington because John Adams was wrong. So again, it was C. That's the answer. C. So kudos to the rest of you. Good job for paying attention and not knowing I was playing tricks on you. So that's the wordsmith in me. Sorry, I only get one. That's the only one I get all night long. So here's how the rest of our locations are going to go. So for those of you with video cameras, let's get them stopped. So again, we have enough footage of us standing around, and of course here comes.
Well, Ma, since you can't see anything, I'm going to have a recording while we're walking.
Perfect.
Because I can't see it because I'm trying to cover it.
Philadelphia Alley. It's a very popular ghost tour stop, so you guys know. So be very, very careful with your cameras. There might be other tours down there or passing through us. You're going to be very, very discreet, except for Noah. Like, again, he's just listening all over me. Sorry, man. I keep calling you out. You don't even know.
It's just a fucking noise.
You don't need to necessarily shoot the people in our group. Exactly. Point just like Noah's doing right now. Pick a direction and shoot it in the other direction. So again, that's how, and just keep it there. Just keep in mind, people will be coming out of that ivy wall. It's weird, but that's other tours. All right, so London, you're kind of in the way, so let's kind of give Nick a little bit of room. So this place is called Philadelphia Alley now. It used to be called Duelers Alley. This is where some of the duels used to occur for the city of Charleston. So that's exactly why we're here. Every ghost tour that comes down here, this is pretty much a staple. Every tour comes down here, tells the same story. I'm going to tell you that story, but a lot differently because you're ghost hunting. You need different details. Let's kind of get into it. The doctor moves down here from Rhode Island. His name is Dr. Joseph Brown Ladd. He moves down here because he's supposed to get married to his fiancée, Amanda. Amanda just inherited a bunch of money from her dead parents. Are you staying dry over there? Is it a little drier? Okay. Sorry. Again, normally I would, like, this would be a cancel for me for sure. Again, if this kind of spurred up on us. But Amanda, with all of her money, has an attorney that's helping her out with all of the cash flow. The attorney thinks that Dr. Ladd is just after Amanda's money. So he tells Amanda, get rid of the doctor. So he comes to Charleston to prove that he's not after her money. As he's coming into town, the coachman that was bringing him set him up to be robbed and killed. It wasn't a good start to his stay in Charleston. So somebody was walking by. His name is Ralph Isaacs. Now, I'm going to stop on Ralph for a second because he has the same initials as where the doctor came from. This is exactly why I have the Ouija board that Zora's using, was for those specific initials. So Zora, I need you looking for the initials R.I. in that order when they show up. But we always need a secondary clue, because that's two characters, right? Dr. Rhode Island, and then we have Ralph Isaacs himself. So anyway, back to Ralph. He tells the doctor, you don't want to stay here, man. I know this guy. He's going to try to kill you. He said, come with me to 59 Church Street. You can stay there, rent a room, you'll be safe. He took him up on the offer. They became friends. So the longer the doctor stays here, the more money he's making. He's proving his point. He's not after Amanda's money. Amanda gets wind of this. She's coming down. They're going to get married. Dr. Ladd became known as the Whistling Doctor. Now, here's where I'm going to stop again, because every haunted city you're ever going to visit has a cliched whistling ghost. We all have one, just so you know. There's proof of this one, and I'm going to get to that.
I've
Every tour
actually
is going to tell you that as well.
saw a video of a dude hearing a whistling.
A whistling in a video?
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about that whistling in just a moment. It's one of the least things that we find here, but it is common for people without equipment. Let's get back to Dr. Ladd. Him and Ralph go see plays together. They can't sit next to each other because the doctor makes more money. That's just the way the hierarchy works here in Charleston. So they talk about the plays on the way home. They go see Richard III one night, and they're arguing over the actress that just came to town for the first time. Dr. Ladd thought she was fantastic. Ralph didn't. The argument turns into Ralph insulting Doctor's fiancée, Amanda, back home in Rhode Island. It gets very ugly. They go their separate ways. We've already figured out that Ralph's lived here a lot longer than Dr. Ladd, so he goes to his friends at the newspaper. And he goes and tells his friends he wants to put an ad in the paper telling the whole city of Charleston what he thinks of the doctor. Kind of a, you're a disgrace to society kind of mentality. Well, Dr. Ladd saw this ad and rebutted with, let's go to Duelers Alley. We're going to come down here and settle this, and somebody's going to die. Yeah, right? Again, I can go on and on about this story, but we're investigating. So they came down, they took their 10 paces, they turned, the doctor pointed his gun in the air, and he shot. He didn't want to kill his friend, just needed the courage and bravery to show up to the fight. However, Ralph has his one bullet. He puts it in the kneecap on the doctor. So, Dr. Ladd doesn't die, he falls to the ground, his friends picked him up, carried him home to 59 Church Street. He dies 10 days later after refusing medical treatment. Also keep in mind, he's a doctor. He probably tried to bleed out this wound himself. This is 1786. Gunshot wounds back then were a lot different than what we know now. So it's probably lead poisoning. So, again, every ghost tour tells you to listen for the whistles as you're walking through here. We're using my voice recorder. You don't need to listen right now. You're going to listen to it later, so there might be whistles in the background. If you're going to try this on your own and go all the way through the alley, turn on your voice recorders from your phone. Just keep in mind every local knows the story. So anybody walking up and down Cumberland Street or Queen Street is going to throw a whistle down the alley. Me and London do it when she's here every single night. We passed my garage, so we race to see who's going to throw that whistle first. So she loses often, just so you all know. Yeah. You can't do it while you're talking, but we're not going to test that right now. We'll test it later. But anyway. So, again, that's the whole point of the Whistling Doctor. But I always throw a whistle down here because I got kicked out of here. Let's talk about that. That's the fun part of the story. So, this alley didn't go all the way through this way, up to Cumberland Street. It was cut off about halfway between where we're standing and the street itself. The reason why is because this is where they kept the livestock for the city of Charleston. They had to block it off. It was a heavier rain again. So it was called Cow Alley during those times. This is before dueling times. They're still dueling, but probably not with a cow in the middle of the duel. But at any rate, so that means those bricks on the other side, down by Queen Street, are older than those bricks. Those down there actually have a full handprint from a slave child because they're sun-dried bricks from slave children. So the handprint, I treat just like a grave. That kid's not staring at that brick in the afterlife. I used to show it off all the time when I first started doing this because it's part of history. We all need to see it. I don't care about the diversity of my group. We all need to see how far we've come away from slavery. However, everybody wants to try to get a reading from that handprint. November 26th of 2020. Yes, a very specific date. We're going to get into that too. My entire group of 10 is huddled around this brick waiting for something to happen. Nothing's happening, obviously. And I'm trying to shoo them along out of respect to the brick. Not only, it's outside the kitchen window of the beautiful mansion at the end of the alley. I'm just trying to be respectful to the neighbor, not knowing I was out of bounds. I'm not allowed to take people down there because it's residential. So, the new owner of that mansion came out screaming. This one thought it was great because Dad's getting yelled at, yay! So, we moved on. We actually had another little incident that night too. Do you remember that?
Yep.
Yep. Homeless guy. I told him, Happy Thanksgiving, because it was Thanksgiving the next day, and he went off F-bombs like crazy. I'm like, what is going on today? But anyway, there were children, and we had it all on recording. So,
It's a colorful city.
So the next day was Thanksgiving, like I mentioned. We don't tour on Thanksgiving because I work for
Says on
Walmart.
and on.
Mainly for about 20 years. You guys get it? I'm not doing retail, Thanksgiving anymore. The next day was November 28th. That's the date we're actually after. So I talked to my partner at the time, and I told him what happened with November 26th, and he said, you can't take people down there. You got to go down halfway or reroute the group. So I decided I'm going to reroute the group. I don't want to talk about pirates, but I have to. So basically, in a nutshell, we get up there. Well, I told the team that night we're going to reroute and kind of what happened the night before. And before we left, somebody heard the name Anne on a spirit box. I didn't tell them who we were going to be investigating. The famous female pirate Anne Bonny. So I went, oh, hot damn. So we get up there, I told what little bit I did know about pirates on my research that day, and somebody else heard the number 300. I don't know what that means in real time. Write it down, research the next day. We are there November 28th of 2020. Anne Bonny's trial for piracy was November 28th of 1720. We were there on the exact 300th anniversary of her pirate trial. And I went, shit, now I gotta learn about pirates. So, everything we're going to be dealing with came out of pirate lore. That's the difficult part. You all need to be thankful I have a master's degree in creative writing, and I can put all this together to find factual data. Everything we're going to discuss came from a minimum of 2 resources to make sure we have as much factual pieces as we can so that way we can investigate. Now, the next location, we will get bleed over from the Dr. Ladd story, but I want you to also keep in mind we're going to be talking about pirate lore. It is a hit and miss location because Anne is said to be seen all over town. The hope is that she's going to be there in the same 15 to 25 minutes that we're going to be there. I don't time it. If things happen, we stay. If not, we move on. That's just kind of how I work. Again, I'm not going to keep us in a space that's a dead space. No pun intended, or wasn't. But the next location is a lot of fun because it's the crazy story that I pieced together of all of the factual pieces that I found. So, any other major questions about dueling that I might be able to answer? This is one of the most beautiful spaces in all of Charleston, by the way. Unfortunately, I can't see it all the way down to the end, so you can see it. Ralph, R-A-L. We're looking for R-I. This is initial for Ralph Isaacs. R-A-L. Like a Raphael? Maybe the Ninja Turtle? You got going on down here? Yes, sir.
What if we all walked all the way down the alley as an individual private citizen? But we just happen to be walking the alley.
With all that equipment, and they're still going to come out.
We're trying to get in the way.
Yep. And then I get that ticket from the tourism office. I don't like calling this a tour, but I have to follow all the laws because we're walking around the city. You guys get the point. I appreciate the effort, Chip. I love it. But no. Not with all my gear. It'll be confiscated. All right, let's go learn about some crazy pirates unless anybody else has something crazy to tell me about their
You
gear.
still haven't listened to the walkthrough?
He's like, I'm just having no hot.
Yeah, just walk through it.
Pregnant is definitely relevant. So I don't know if Amanda was pregnant, but again, I've never had a whole lot of bleed over from Anne Bonny into here other than a few pieces here and there, but that pregnancy might be a good piece. I'll take it. Any EMF readings out of you, Aiden? This is normally like a baseline of 5, so anything above a 5 I get excited about. The lampposts kind of give us a little bit of a charge.
I mean, this is the highest I've been. I've been at 2.9.
don't have to be rich, which is in the song Kiss by Prince.
I love how you keep giving me the artist. Alright, anything else crazy? Alright, let's do this. We're gonna go learn about pirates. Harder. Yeah, it just doesn't work. So the reason I bring these up is because it's part of the reason why we're here. So those earthquake bolts on, I'll slow down on the twist to make sure you guys shift like, oh, I like her. Part of the first. It's gonna be a female in my course. Most of us are about to put them together. She's eventually gonna get pregnant. You can't have a pregnant pirate king on the crew. So someone's gonna figure out the jack or the girl on the crew, and then they're gonna both name as happy. So drop that before she starts.
Ma, I'm tired.
You want to switch with Aiden or Daddy
No.
or Zola?
Relevant over here because Eliza's husband is buried across the street. So he keeps popping up like, hey, like you keep getting little tiny things about Charles over here. Maybe his name will show up. You're really good at finding names, by the way.
Also his
My real name is Charles. So we throw Charles in.
or
Who's next?
Could be him too.
Could be him. Again, I don't have a secondary clue, and who knows? I don't know you guys that well, other than you guys are fun to hang out with. So something might pop up out of these word lists for things that I find. When I go through the recording that Brian has, I put in the weird things that I find. I might not know the relevance to the space because it's relevant to one of you. That's why it's just a weird phrase. So the word bathtub, just like what we heard, I don't have relevance. It might be somebody here knows somebody that passed away in a bathtub. I don't know. But anyway, so
I got the letter Q a lot. Q
actually has this full menage a trois thing going on with his names. You heard the name Ann when we first got here, and then you heard the name John, that's Calico Jack's real name, John Rackham. And then
John earlier too.
And then he's got the name Mary. So I was like, dude, they were all lovers. Like, put them all together. Like, seriously. So he had the whole thing, and now he's really good at names. So apparently, it's the thing coming out of that spirit box. And that's not an easy spirit box. That's an older shot, you see. So let's go through the quick answers, unless anybody else has something weird that they may have heard. So me and Brian were in voices. The word king out of any of the other ones, you have to remember, we have to mix our tech with what we're doing. Look at your in the moment kind of feel. So they're not going to.
What are you spelling? You're doing another demo? Why are you here?
Well, it's not like you've never heard these stories.
Watch this puddle here, sis. Now there's an old road.
want to not know the history of this space so you can see how relevant this is.
Okay.
Alright, so, well, he's going to be the only one blindfolded at this point, so looks like he's got his purse.
Okay, good.
So, here's how this is going to go. The rest of us are going to go over there. I'm going to give him a blindfold so he can get it open. I wax his gross too, so I don't want him back. So, they're disposable. They'll be your purse. So basically, when you open this guy up for a single serve, just like an airplane, you're going to open it up this way, and it's 2-ply. Pull up on the center, and there's a place to rip, so you can have 2 loopholes going over your ears. So that's how that guy actually works. And then, while I'm telling, we're only going to be over there for like 5 minutes. I want you to play with these noise-canceling headphones. You don't need to put them on right away, but definitely get used to the tension of them, just because they're still relatively new, and that way you can see how they pull apart. Because I'm going to have to hand them to you once you're blindfolded. So play with those as well. Ring. So when we come back, we're going to be talking to him as if he's the ghost, like I said, and hopefully he's going to give us answers. Lori's going to film everything. Everybody else is doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. So, do you have any readings coming out of that device at all? We have gotten triple digits, so over 100 in this location, just so you know. Anything crazy, Amelia, that I need to know about before we go over?
Do you know who Mason is?
It's not necessarily Mason a person, it might be a Freemason. And that would be your friend George Washington right here. Or he's like, alright, that's why we keep Nick around. He thinks outside the box. Good deal. Alright guys, let's go learn the history of this space. We're going to leave these 2 behind so they can kind of get used to things. There's a tear right there in the center. Perfect. Alright. Behind me is Henry Timrod, born in 1828. Very specific details, yes? So, here's how this goes. I knew I'd heard the story before, but again, I don't want to know too much because I want to get it out of all of our answers that we're getting here. Henry Timrod was a poet and a writer. Here's how his story goes. He was pretty much sick for most of his life, but being born in 1828, he was obviously old enough to, go fight in the war, the Civil War. And he wants to fight for the Confederates. He goes out to fight, but his comrades tell him, you're too sick to fight, dude. Go home and write, and be the voice of the war. Look at people what's going on out here on the battlefield. So he came out, and he started writing poetry, telling everybody what's going on. He became known as the laureate of the Confederacy. Best writers, that's a pretty prestigious title. Now, 2 years after he comes home, he has a son. You guys are all going to know the name of the son, but he's not, obviously. The name of the son was Willie. He was born on Christmas Eve, and he died 9 months later, October 23rd. So, obviously very tragic. It was a dark and stormy night when the rain didn't see the lightning. But a few years after his son passes away, he's still mourning. And his old college buddy gets a hold of him and says, you know what, you're not writing as much as you should be. Come out to my cottage in Columbia. You can finish working on the piece you're supposed to be doing for the newspaper and have some peace. Leave the wife, Katie, behind with her parents to mourn in you. So he goes out, and that's where he writes his last words. His last words were, beholder of brief mortality. Person of short life, in essence, in today's language. So, and he coughs, and it lands on the page in a bloodstain. Had tuberculosis. Yeah. So they had chest injections for it or something along those lines? Something about asthma.
Oh, probably.
That's my friend. Next location. So that bloodstain on that page is famous. That bloodstain looks like a man writing with his hands. We call it the blood book. Timrod's entire collection is held at the Charleston Library. They only show this book 1 day a year on that page because it's known as the blood book, and they show it on Halloween. But the internet is beautiful. So I'm going to show you what the bloodstain looks like. So that we can get the gist of it, and we're going to go learn more about Mr. Timrod and see how this is actually going to go down. Kind of disappointed. I was trying to rush this next week over and continue going because I kind of used that with the EMF. And when you hear it, we get a lot of safe enough. So here is the last page. I love the fact that it tells a whole story. Older and brief mortality. very cool stuff. So again, you guys got the gist of why we're here. Nice creepy story to end our night with. Nice new experiment to try to play things out. So we're gonna go over and give him some tips because this is a weird thing to do. Just so you guys know, definitely keep. Again, you guys all need jobs. That's the perfect shot right there. I love it. We probably have a trillion pictures, by the way. I've been watching Kristen all night long, and she's literally been snapping pictures everywhere we go. So great job and kudos to you, but you probably missed out on some of the audio, which is like, yeah, he's got it recorded. I love it. So let's go to work and let's see what we can get out of this guy. So a couple of things about this. I'm going to leave you under once I see that your breathing is getting a little too heavy, then I'm going to have Zora tap your leg. So Zora, when I do that, I will say let's count him out, and I'll go 3, 2, 1, and then you tap him out. The reason I do that is because it gives our friend, Henry, a little opportunity to say one last thing. So January and trial, 2 trials. Christian, when I tap you out, or when Zora taps you out and you take everything off, you're going to remain seated for at least a few minutes, just because this can be a little disorienting for you. Might come out a little dizzy, so it might come out perfectly fine. You never know. I've seen people come up and trying to fall down. I'm like, nope, get your ass back on the bench. Again, once we get you comfortable with the volume of that, I want you to leave the spirit box to your side so we can know that you're not altering the volume to your piece. So you guys are all getting the gist of this whole experiment, correct? This can work out really well, or it can work out really bad. So we're going to see how it goes. All right, let's go ahead and turn that volume up and pull your blindfold down and then put your hands out and I'll give you the press against the fingers. So it is 11:03. This is the only thing I time during our time together, just so you guys know, just so he's not under for too long. So I usually give him about a minute. So it's 11:03. About 30 seconds to get activated to the sounds. Let's huddle in a little bit closer. Just
7 and 8, 11.
So Henry, I'm here again.
Years later.
I brought a whole team with me tonight. Actually, we got a little bit more people than normal.
Sources.
But this is Christian sitting here, and he can hear you through the box with the red lights. So the first thing I want to ask is, tell us what your job was. Can you tell us anything about what you did for a living?
6-year-old.
Henry, I want you to tell us what you did for a living.
I think it's short-sighted.
Henry, one more time. What did you do for a living? Starting off very simple. You gave us the answer just the other night. Let's try it again.
Isaiah.
Henry, let's move on.
Celebrate.
Do that. Why don't you tell us about the birth of your son? Can you maybe tell us part of the date of when he was born?
America.
A very specific date for a holiday for us. What was the holiday where your son was born?
Technology.
We're using a lot of technology. Thank you for recognizing that. So I want to get some specific answers out of you.
Mommy don't know. Daddy's getting hot.
Tell me about your son. Maybe what his name was, his birth date. Anything you want to tell us. We'll go a little broad tonight. people are here with you. Don't count any of us that are watching it.
Hawaii.
Anybody else getting any words? Any words on your word list?
If it's not Henry, maybe someone else is here.
I mean, we get a lot of different clues. And that Mason thing was pretty specific. Notice he's not talking as I'm talking to the rest of you.
High profiles. 360.
Henry, let's get anything you want to tell us specific about you, your life, your family. Maybe how you died. That's a pretty good question. You've given us that answer before. Specifically, just so you guys all know. Like, that was an amazing session. Come on, Henry. We're all listening.
Sober now.
Henry. Can you just give us something simple, like if you just hear us? Simple yes or no. You don't have to say no or no. You know you're happy here. No ratings at all.
2 blocks away.
Just 2 blocks away. Exactly. What's 2 blocks away?
Victory of the season.
In under about 6 minutes, just so you guys know. Henry, anything you want to tell us? You haven't given us anything. I'm going to close it down if you want to talk to us. Henry's one last chance. I'm going to count it out.
I am your God.
Doubt it.
He speaks.
Who speaks? Count it out. 3, 2, 1.
Call me.
Not getting the message, everybody.
Odds on favor.
He wants to keep going. He's doing-
Am I supposed to take it long?
Yes. That was the tapping you out.
Yeah, I thought you said you were taking these off.
No, I won't take anything off. Like, I don't touch anything else, so
No,
that could be your thing. Go ahead and take off the blindfold.
it's misunderstood, I guess.
It's okay. How do you feel? Yeah? How did it feel when you were under?
Like crazy.
You didn't give us any. I'll be honest. Like, there was no, like, this was unsuccessful. Like, I'm not going to paint a picture of like how beautiful this was. We were asking direct questions. We gave them general questions to give us anything we wanted to. Absolutely nothing came out of that. So again, sometimes it's successful, sometimes it's not. Unsuccessful ones, we just learn from it. Like, what kind of questions did we ask? Were we asking the same questions we asked every single time? Was that the problem? Those kind of things. But again, we did get a lot of video of the entire thing. I don't think anybody did any of those things that he said. It was like relevant to anybody here specifically? Or anybody see anything, hear anything on the clear property? Brian, you got anything?
No, just
A lot of times what we'll notice is if the clock went up here, you get it.
actually find a good tree.
Probably going to be closer to that front. So we can
Exactly where I'm at.
closer to the ground. Alright, so.
I think it was better out.
Stay here so I can work on your videos. I'm just going to start collecting